All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another quick knowledge clip uh, for organizational behavior. This time, a quick tidbit about how to answer open questions for your upcoming exam. So, first of all, before we start with our example that I have for this video, I wanted to quickly show you a general rule about answering open questions. A couple of general rules. First of all, your answer should always be complete, but also to the point. This effectively means in an exam that you are not supposed to just write out an entire essay, but you should include the critical parts that are asked for in the question. So make sure that you cover each part of the question that is asked, but at the same time try to keep your word count down because you don't want to be wasting too much time on typing out things that won't get you any extra points. Second, if you're asked to explain, discuss, or analyze something, it is not enough to just name the term related to these three things, but instead you should provide an explanation, discussion, or analysis based on what is asked. And lastly, answers should always be written in English. That seems pretty straightforward since we are, of course, doing an English course, but it's always good to remember that. So with those three quick things out of the way, these hold for every single open question. I have a quick 2-question example here that you can practice with. So imagine the following situation. Samantha is a project manager at a marketing agency where she oversees multiple client projects simultaneously. Recently, the agency has taken on several high-profile clients, significantly increasing the complexity and number of projects Samantha is responsible for. She often finds herself juggling deadlines, client expectations, and creative directions. While Samantha has full autonomy to manage her projects, decide on priorities, and delegate tasks to her team members, she feels isolated in her role. The agency's fast-paced environment and focus on individual performance have led to a work culture where collaboration and emotional support are minimal. Samantha's direct supervisor is frequently unavailable for guidance or feedback, leaving her to navigate client relations and project challenges on her own. Now, that was a pretty significant lap of text, but before we get on, we need to decide, of course, based on the questions, what is actually important for how to answer the question. So, here we have 2 questions. The first is, explain the 3 critical factors outlined in the job demand control support model. Then, using this model as a framework, evaluate the work situation of Samantha. Now, this is worth 6 points. I need to keep in mind that on your exam, if I'm correct, that's worth 6 multiple choice questions. So it's really important, most of all, to get this question right. And then as the second question, we have kind of build-up question where we need to offer a concrete targeted recommendation to improve Samantha's situation, grounded in our analysis of the previous questions. We have 2 points, so that's once again worth 2 multiple choice questions. Now, before I show you how to do this question, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to pause the video so that you can maybe try and figure out the answer yourself. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to pause, and then I will show you the job demand control support model and how this plays into the question right here. Okay, I hope in the meantime you have had time to pause, and then we will move on to the answer right away. So, of course, most important part of this question is we need to know what the job demand control support model is. Otherwise, we can get nowhere. So I have it on the right here. You can see that the job demand control support model is simply a model that predicts the amount of strain that a job has. A job, of course, has demands, and demands are directly positively related to strain. But this relationship is moderated, so it's changed a bit by the amount of control and support, which both have a negative effect on this relation. Pretty much what this means is if you have high control over your job or high support in your job, then the strain that comes from the demands is lessened a bit. So these are ways that you can kind of lower the strain of a job while keeping the demand the same, so keeping the amount of tasks you need to do the same. Now, what in these are the three critical factors that the exercise speaks of? Those are demands, control, and support. Demands are simply the responsibilities and obligations an individual faces in a job or task. Control is the degree to which an individual can decide how to meet the demands of a job. So it's the autonomy of a job, how the person that does the job can decide how they want to do it, when they want to do it, and in what order they want to do it, for instance. And then lastly, support is simply the amount of social support an individual receives from others in the organization or the organization itself. Now, this can be things like just collaborating with team members or having discussions about their job, but it can actually also be things like, for instance, stress management classes that are provided by the organization. So support can take on many different forms. Now then, now that we have outlined the three critical factors, we need to place them on Samantha's job. Now, based on the text we just read, we know that the demands of Samantha's job are high because she has a high number of complex projects she is working on simultaneously. So she's juggling responsibilities that are all inherently very complex. Now, this means, of course, that the demands are very high. Then for control, we know that that's actually also high, because in the text we read that she has complete autonomy on how to manage her job and the projects she has. She can decide what to do first, how to do it, and what to prioritize in an exercise. So what we know because of that is that the control will kind of temper the relationship, decrease the strain that the demand causes. And then lastly, the support is actually very low because we read in the text that Samantha feels kind of isolated and has a minimal amount of collaboration with colleagues or support from the organization. We even read that her supervisor is pretty much never available to help her with her struggles. So we can say from this that the support is low. Now, based on these three factors, we can decide that Samantha's job has a moderate to high strain. We know this because demands are high, and support is low. So those are both factors that mean the strain will be very high. But to prevent it from being a completely high strain, we have control, which is very high. So that kind of tempers the relationship down, causing it to become moderate to high. Now keep in mind, this is not set in stone. I just use the term moderate to high here because I have three factors. Two of them are not beneficial and one of them is. So I say, okay, this is moderate to high. But based on your own reasoning, you can always say whatever you want for the amount of strain. But it should be on the higher end of the strain amount because we have two of the three factors that are actually not beneficial, demands and support. Okay, so that is how you can answer question one here. We have, first of all, let's check. We have outlined the three critical factors and we have explained all of them. That's already worth 3 points, one for every explanation. And we have used the JDCS model as a framework to evaluate the work situation of Samantha. The second part of the question will also be worth pretty much 3 points. So with that, we have checked all of the boxes in the question, so we have completed our answer, but we have done it in a relatively small amount of words, which means we should get the perfect 6 points for this. Now then, moving on to question 2. Offer a concrete targeted recommendation to improve Samantha's situation grounded in your analysis. Now, we know that Samantha's job is one with high demand and high control, but low support. Now, of course, we want to keep her performance up. We want her to be as valuable as possible to our organization. So we don't want to lower demand in this situation. We also know from our previous analysis that control is already very high. So we don't really want to change anything for that either, because that's pretty much already at the maximum. That leaves one other factor that we can change, and that is, of course, support. So based on our previous analysis, we say the best recommendation to improve Samantha's situation is to increase the amount of support she gets from the organization. We then can offer a couple of examples, for instance, increased managerial support or increased help from her supervisor, more interaction and collaboration with her coworkers, or even stress management classes, as we mentioned previously. This will allow her job to keep the same demand, so we can keep the same amount of value, but it will lessen the strain because of the increased support, which will decrease the chances of burnout and stress, and thus decrease the chance of a lower performance. Now, this piece in its entirety also gives you 2 points, and we can see we have given a concrete, targeted recommendation specifically catered to Samantha's situation, and we have given specific examples on how Samantha's situation can be improved, grounded in our previous analysis. So, thus far goes our video. We have now answered 2 quick open-ended questions. So I hope it's now a little bit more clear to you how you can answer these types of questions and what thought process you should take when answering them. Now, thank you all for watching and good luck for this week, or if you're watching this for the exam, good luck with the exam already.